plans for a costly safari complete with snipers who could take out lions and cheetahs causing trouble. But the first family's trip to Africa next week still drawing a lot of criticism for a high price tag estimated anywhere between $60 to $100 million at a time Washington's undergoing steep budget cuts and belt tightening. Governor John Sununu, former governor of New Hampshire, White House chief of staff under President George H.W. Bush. How you doing, sir? Good morning to you.
Good morning,
We
Bill.
have
How
not
are you?
spoken in some time. I am doing
I know.
A-okay. You got issues with this trip, or are you okay with it, considering the first family needs its protection here at home and certainly overseas?
Well, they do, and the president is not the one who decides how much is going to be spent on that protection, but he is the one who decides where they're going to go. And frankly, in the old Bush White House, we paid attention to the destinations, if you will, in terms of the security structures that they already had in place, because the President George Herbert Walker Bush was very conscious of the fact that this was the people's money. I think President Obama's starting to have some feedback from the public on the amount of money that has to be spent because of the sites he selects, and frankly, they're also beginning to be concerned about the frequency of these trips.
So you're saying when you were in the White House, you gave strong consideration to the places you went, and you considered the price tag?
We considered whether or not they had security structures in place that made the Secret Service comfortable so that the Secret Service didn't have to spend extra funds to augment the security
Would a
structures.
country like Senegal apply there? Would even South Africa apply there?
Well, I don't have any details on what's currently in place, but you do take into account what is there. And the Secret Service comes back to usually the Chief of Staff with a report on what they think can and can't be done country by country, and you sit down with them and you go back to the president and say, this is the plus and minus of going here versus going there.
Navy ship full of trauma center, military cargo planes with 56 vehicles, 14
Hospitals.
limos, 3 trucks loaded with sheets of bulletproof glass to cover the windows of the hotels where the first family will stay. Do you believe this is a smart trip to be taken now?
Well, I think the president's in a second term, and frankly, I get the feeling he doesn't care whether it's smart or not.
Really?
Really.
We're told from the White House that it's goodwill. There'll be a lot of goodwill that comes from a trip like this. Is that something you see?
Well, look, they have their own strategy. They have their own agenda. I'm not privy to the details. They might have some grand scenario, but the backlash that's already coming about on the basis of the cost of this trip, I think is suggesting that perhaps they haven't examined the pluses and minuses appropriately.
You ever hear of George Holding, Republican from North Carolina? He's saying that the cost of this trip, you could have 1,350 weeks of White House tours instead.
Well, you know, the president's decision to close the White House tours and to put, if you will, that burden on sequester has come back to bite him in a number of ways. And I'm sure that Representative Holding's perspective on this is going to become a very popular view, that the president is spending so much on this and keeping the kids who come to Washington in the spring and the summer from getting their White House tour.
He would argue that he did not want sequestration, although it originated
was his
from the White
idea.
House in the
It was
first
his
place.
idea.
He didn't want to
And
go
they-
through with it when it happened, though. Go ahead.
Yeah, and their directives were basically make it as painful as possible. And I think people understand that that was the White House's intention. You can't hide reality with words.
Sir, thank you. John Sununu.
Thank
Good
you.
to talk to you, Governor. We'll speak again. Thanks.